Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sparking Success. My name is EJ, and I'm joined by my good friend, Aaron Opalewski. Aaron, how are you today?
What's up, man? You're looking tan.
I'm coming back from vacation. Yeah. I was peeling a whole bunch, but I know you just went through that too. So.
Oh, my shoulders are bad right now. Yeah.
So funny. We're so excited to be back with each of you. And whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on one of the various audio channels, we just want to start off and say thanks. It's such a privilege to get to do this with each of you. Aaron, I always love hearing the wisdom, not the theory, but the wisdom and the day-to-day things that you are working through, how you've sparked success in your life and within Spark companies. And today we're going to talk about a topic that not only do I love talking about, but I know Aaron does as well. And that's being the number one recruiter for your organization. And as we've been talking through and planning out this episode, there are a number of different things that we feel are super important within it. So Aaron, before we dive into the nitty gritty of it, will you give us just a little bit of overview why you feel like being the number one recruiter for your organization is so important?
Yeah, I just think as like a leader of any team, in general, like you got to be the number one recruiter as the leader. And so you got to just always be looking out for people that would fit your team or could upgrade what your capacity is to do more. In sports, there's like X amount of seats on a team, right? And there's tryouts every year. And that coach has to make tough decisions on who makes the team and who doesn't. And there's things that they're looking for, like talent is a part of that. But there might be other things like how do they interact with the team? How do they mesh, with everybody, but they got to make those decisions. Well, the cool thing about business, I believe business is even more competitive than sports. If you're trying to do it at the highest levels. At the same time, though, business, and the company doesn't, want to grow, but as long as the company wants to grow, there can be an unlimited amount of seats. It's just about getting the capacity and output in the right spot to then add, more seats to your bus.
Right.
But I think that's cool, right? Because that doesn't mean that you don't have tough decisions or that you don't have to top grade a position or that you're not going to lose someone along the way or that everything's going to go your way. It's just to say that there doesn't just have to be 15 spots on your team or 52 spots on your team, like, football or basketball, like there can be an unlimited amount of spots. But there could also just be one or two or none if you can't produce an output. Right. So a lot of pressure and competitiveness, within that for the leader. But there's nothing that stops you from just cultivating environment that you're going after elite performance, and you can just keep compounding the amount of opportunity on the team.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's a great explanation. And, over the years, as you've led, you've had the opportunity to not only refine that, but find some key points, some key things within that really help you to become that number one recruiter for your organization.
Sure.
And, I wrote down some notes alongside of you. I want to start off by talking about always recruiting.
Sure.
When you say always recruiting, do you mean that you're always thinking about it? You're always looking, even if you don't have open positions? What do you mean by always recruiting?
Oh man, let's get into that. So yeah, like you're always looking, for talent, whether it's a role, a future role, a current role. If you're, dreaming about, how you're going to grow and things you're going to do, you're more strategically forecasting, and you have roles coming up because you just close programs, you have meetings, and if things go through, this is what's going to happen. If you want to get ahead of that, if you want to say, hey, we're going to set timelines around, we're going to win this, and then we're going to need to staff up. These are all things that go into your head. There's the defensive side of it that is like, hey, look, like, we got this many people on performance, management plans, or, we have X amount of people maybe in the wrong seat, and even if I reallocate them in the company, it's going to be a hole here. And so you got to always be thinking about that. So part of that is pretty, if you do it right, I think it's kind of like, this isn't we're starting with the non-fun part of this, right? But it's a load, because if you have to at least, I wouldn't live here, but you have to be thinking defensively about like what could go wrong or what could not go your way. Because guess what happens if things unravel on a team or an area, or you lose somebody? Like, guess who cares at the end of the day? Nobody,
right?
Who cares somewhat is your clients, but they don't care about you not being able to have that done. They just care about being serviced well,
right?
And then if you can't do that, I guess they will care in the form of they're going to leave.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of pressure to that if you're thinking about it right, because like that's why I say I like to go there, but not stay there, because you could drive yourself crazy.
That's
right? But
really good.
I got to think about it, and I got to be thinking ahead of worst case scenarios without staying in a negative mindset like all the time. Then I just, hey, part of that is good communication, good career mapping, good conflict resolution. It's not avoiding, why do people avoid performance management a lot of the times? Well, this is a big part of it, because they have thought about what happens if I do this and it makes it uncomfortable and this person leaves, or what. Like I know I should let this person go. Am I going to
be able to?
And it's just like, we have a core value: do the right thing. It's like, man, if you're talking that way and that's the case, then it's the wrong thing to be keeping that person there, or not like having the conversations to try and work through that and coach and help them develop and get better. Like, do they even know what good looks like? Like if you're scared to have those conversations, you have so many other, issues. And in our world, it would be it's a core value, violation of like, we're just not, if I know someone doesn't have an opportunity to grow here, and that's really important to them. There are situations where it's like, I love my role, I'm really good at it, like lock me into this. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about most of the people that we hire, because our purpose is to help people grow.
Yeah.
Want to be able to elevate and promote, and whether it's within the role or do other stuff. Well, if I can see that they just can't elevate in their role, or they're just not going to elevate anywhere in the company, and I just like hang on to that, man, I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm doing a disservice to our company. I'm not living by their values. I'm doing a disservice to them, because guess what? Like, they may not be a fit here for any of those things, right? But they could be a fit elsewhere,
right? So at Spark Companies, we have 7 companies within the portfolio. 6 of the 7 of those specifically geared towards workforce solutions. And as we have that, the 7th company, Bolt, which, I have the privilege of leading, one of the things we do for those other 6 companies is recruit, right? Like, we market those companies. And the other day I was on I don't know if it was Indeed or LinkedIn or something like that, right? But I'm doing my research, seeing what other people who are posting roles and positions are doing.
Yeah.
And I came across a role that I was like, why does it say that? And what it said is, not currently hiring, pipeline position. And as you were just talking...
Well, at least they're being honest.
Yeah, I do appreciate you saying that. They were pipelining, and they were saying like, this is the potential of a future role. This is, XYZ. And they were frankly always recruiting. It may look different from how we do it here, but does that go into the concept of always recruiting for you at all? How do you feel about that?
The form of that, having a pipeline. So,
okay.
And I don't know what the context or role was or anything like that, but again, some companies, specifically in recruiting, because they're trying to build pipelines, will post like fake jobs, and we don't do that. I don't condone that. I don't think you should do that.
Yeah,
not really what I'm saying. That's why when you said that comment, my comment back was, "Hey, at least they're being upfront." I'm surprised Indeed doesn't take it down, because usually they don't want stuff like that up.
Yeah,
it's not an actual role at this point. But again, at least they're being upfront about it. I can appreciate that. So did I answer your question?
I think you did. For me, as I was looking at it, I was like, oh, well, they're recruiting in some way, shape, or form. It did feel a little bit icky, sleazy. I don't know what the word was. But
at least they're being upfront about it.
Yeah.
So
okay.
But okay, so I could tell you should always be recruiting.
Right.
And you can probably go all over the internet and you're going to hear that. Like, cool. I'm not telling you. Like, now if you do it, that's another thing. Like, you want to know a form of always be recruiting. This is just the reality to it. It's not anything else. Like, so on my birthday at 10:21 at night, I'm sending a text response to set up like breakfast and interview essentially, with someone that I am actively, talking to.
Right.
And so there's like, it does, who cares that, like, I don't care that it's my birthday or like, it's like, there's no, like, there you go. Like, would be an example of what I mean. Like at 10:21 at night, like, and we didn't talk, I just confirming we're going to meet on X day and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's like, you're always doing it. And so one of the things that you can do to really get in that frame of mind is you got to know what characteristics that you look for in your hires.
Let's talk more about that.
So once I know that, that's when I can really always be recruiting. And the better I get at this, I'm going to lose my train of thought on what this is called. I haven't heard Ed talk about it in a while, but
Ed Milet.
Yeah, like you like when you focus on something, like you're more in the world of hiring now.
Yeah.
Have you found, just going to Starbucks, or maybe people don't go in Starbucks as much anymore, but like when you go to a place, a restaurant or something like that, do you think over the last 2 years, year and a half since you've been working here, that when you're out and about, you hear more conversations about hiring than you heard in the past?
All day long. It's like that sixth sense almost now.
That's your reticular activating system.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Trick, because it's on your mind more.
Mm-hmm.
You're focused on it.
Right.
So you're already starting to like put that in, just because you're in proximity of this and you understand this is what we do. This is the value we bring. This is how we, help people. We help companies. Like, this is what we do. So you're just hearing it more now. It was always there. It's probably there. Like, I mean, you were around more people in your previous job than you probably are, but you still probably hear that more now.
Oh yeah.
And that's all that is. It's just on your mind. So if you understand, well, one, so we have that, right? So if I'm literally telling myself I need to always be recruiting, and I'm like doing that, like it's getting more into my like DNA that like I'm going to be looking for this all the time. Well, then when I know the characteristics I'm looking for, specifically if you're trying to hire for like roles that don't necessarily require that the person has the experience, you're looking for characteristics in people that breed success within the role. When I know those and I'm focused on those, I can always be looking for people with those characteristics. And when I find them, I found a potential person to look at as a hire.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this before, because I'm going to read off our characteristics right now. And this would be another thing on this. But for years, the things that I'm looking for in people, I'm looking at, what can I learn about their character, which that one is hard to assess, like at Starbucks, but you can see little things that stand out. And, when people aren't like, when they don't know they're interviewing or you're observing them, those are some of the best times to observe and do that.
Yeah.
So
I love watching people correct their mistakes. Like if I'm at a restaurant, or let's use Starbucks again, and something goes wrong and they correct their mistake and they like own it. I love that. That's like, an indicator for me.
Sure.
Right. I'm like,
well, there you go. That would be an example.
Yeah.
So character, has been one for me. Their coachability, their adaptability, and then do I think they're hungry?
Yeah.
And so those are great. Those are still the characteristics that I'm looking for. But I've said that to you multiple times that you've been here. I've said that to other people for years. And must I rip those off? Is that like really that entrenched in your head? Probably not.
No.
You got a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking about that. And, when we are developing people, coaching people, teaching them how, like the fundamentals of how to do something, simple beats complex. Well,
Yeah.
like complexity kills everything, and things get more complex on their own, because we just all have tons of stuff going on.
Complexity kills everything.
It kills execution. Yeah. So I'm always thinking about this. And so these are the same things that I just said.
Yep.
But I'm trying to package it in a different way.
Right.
So I'm now calling it the 5 C's that we're looking for.
Okay.
So what are the 5 C's? Character, which I already said. Commitment, which I think is super important. We'll come back to that in a minute. Competence, chemistry, and then coachability.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about a role that's like, if you're trying to hire a CFO, well, competency is really important in that role. Like, I can't hire you to be the CFO.
And you should.
Or, I might not, see the person, I might not be in the restaurant and maybe they're going to school and they're a great junior accountant or can work and receive, like maybe they have a future that could progress to that. Right. But like in these situations for specialized positions, you're probably not going to find those there. Although if you're looking for those, you do meet people and stuff like you might meet someone that has that competency. And when you're locked into this, that's like even more of a like, whoa, cause you're aware of it. Right. But I'm talking about roles that don't necessarily require someone to have a ton of the competency up front. It's more, it'd be like a sales role for us, entry-level recruiting, entry-level, like administrative type roles. Like, yes, it's like we want someone to have like basic technology skills. You want them to be able to work a computer, things like that. Sure. I'll tell you our highest performing, person this year though, they didn't know how to do email when they first came here. Yep. They're the highest performing person here this year by far. So far. Yeah. And so lessons within that. So what I'm looking for is I want to look at someone's character as best I can, but I know I'm going to have to learn more about that. And that's what the interview process is for, even a little bit more. It goes beyond that because you don't really learn about someone's character until they're in a tough position and they have the ability to kind of skirt that tough position without anyone knowing. And what do they do? That's when you learn a lot. Yep. And just because someone makes one mistake there, or maybe even a couple mistakes there, doesn't mean overall they lack total integrity or character, because we all make mistakes. Correct. But okay, what is probably the most important across any role for me? Coachability. It's right back to that person that couldn't open an email or whatever. Well, yeah, that was true. Do you think that's true now? Like, no, right? Well, if they weren't and that's like an extreme example, but if they're not, I need someone that's coachable. Yep. And if I find out they have good character and they're coachable, man, we got some key components here. Now, the other thing is like, what does competence look like in like an entry level role? Well, for us, like you need to be able to communicate with people in a lot of our roles. Yeah. So that becomes like kind of a entry level competence is how do you interact, with other people? Can you do that well? So charisma, it was one of them down. Like I am looking at that, more and more, and I'll say that in a different way, like people's energy. Yeah. Like, what's one of EJ's unique strengths? Well, if you bring a client in or, like EJ is great with people in front of him. He's got a charisma to him. He's got an energy. He makes people, feel like they're leaving that conversation feeling good and having some more energy, especially like in client, scenarios. I'm not saying that's humbling. Is there ever a moment where EJ's down and, like, yeah, like that happens. But when EJ is in that mode, he's in that mode, and it's not really something that's teachable. It's a unique skill set that he has. Yeah. So you look for that. So these things are, the things that I'm looking for. So, and then you kind of test along, for some of the other stuff, right? But like, that's what I'm looking for. So if I see someone and then if I find out that they're, which one does this go to? So commitment, right? Yeah. So entry level, you don't know if you have that or not. Like, but I can find like what I'm looking for is, man, okay. let me learn a little bit about this person. What have they committed to?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have to be that they did recruiting for 15 years, although I guess that would be okay if we were looking for someone with experience. Like, I want to see a commitment. That's what we're looking for, because things are going to get tough, and anything you're committed to, it's not perfect. There's things that there's up and down periods. There's adversity. There's challenges. There's conflict. And so I want someone that I can see some kind of track record that they can do that.
Yeah.
Well, if I have some kid in college or high school that's coming in, what does that look like? Well, you got to ask them some questions, and maybe they don't have it yet. And I'm not saying you don't hire them, but like, if I've seen that they've committed to a sport or a team or something that takes discipline, something that's like, hey, they could be out hanging out with their friends or playing video games, or they've had to sacrifice a little bit in that way, specifically if they got a great result out of it, or maybe they didn't, but they just put their time and effort and commitment into it. And then specifically if they're like, here's what I learned from it, they're like, well, that's really
awesome.
good.
Yeah. Double down on that.
But you're looking for that type of stuff. It could be that they are in the job where you meet them, and you get to know them for like, this doesn't all, I'm not saying all the time in a first conversation, all that could, like, you could get to know someone for a period of time.
Yeah.
Like, you go to your coffee shop, you go to same restaurant, you get to know someone there. And it's like, man, this person's going to school, they're paying, you learn, how do you evaluate this stuff? Well, another way would just be curious about people and ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be all wrapped up in only you. Yeah. Right. I think this is it's not like the only reason that you should be curious about people, or, but it's just like, it's a way that you can get outside of being like self-absorbed with your own little bubble and world, is just to be curious about what other people have going on.
Right.
And when you have this concept in mind, doesn't mean that everyone is going to fit your organization, but this is how you can run it. Like, we're all coming across these situations. It's who applies it, thinks about it, gets the literally like the dynamics behind this, like physiologically, or I don't even know how to say that.
That's
but
right.
There's just like, there's something behind this that when you wire yourself this way, you're gonna like, oh, they luckily ran into that person. No, it's like, you're being intentional about understanding what you're looking for. You're always looking for it. It's in your reticular activating system, and you're just on the lookout for it. And then if you can get to the point where you're not forcing it, right? Like, I want to say, I guess it's kind of like you don't care. Like, because we've all, like, you don't want to be desperate with it, or like come off like, hey, I just met this person. Hey, you know what? I think you should come work with us, or like, just like, let it bake. It's kind of like dating. When you and I don't know that I'm the best example of that. I got engaged in 90 days, but like, the point would be like, we've all been in a situation where like, when someone comes off and they are like, can really tell they want something to happen, it can appear or be a little desperate. Right. And like, that's not generally very attractive. So don't make it all about that. Make it about learning about the person. And if what you actually have to offer is a really good fit for them, figure out how to just naturally ingrain that in a conversation at the right time.
Yeah.
So,
I want to give a little illustration, and I think it'll lead to the next, part of always being a recruiter, right?
Sure.
Being the number one recruiter. Yeah. Years ago, when I was interviewing people, I had a handful of candidates in front of me. I'm working, through them. I've kind of narrowed it down. I'm into the second round of, interviews. And I asked the question to one candidate. And when I asked it, I loved his honesty. He was like, I don't know how to do that. Right. And then I think the interview was early in the week, and I had, kind of foreshadowed to him that I had more interviews at the end of the week. Mm-hmm. Well, by the time I got to the end of the week interviews with the other person, that coachability immediately showed up from that first candidate, because he came back and he said, hey, EJ, I know I didn't know how to do this. Let me show you some of the research that I've done, how I think I can learn this. Yeah. And immediately, before I even interviewed the other candidates, I was like, That's awesome. And one of the things that you and I have talked about, and we want to talk about within this episode, is learning people's strengths, right? And
which we're going to,
when we talk about being the number one recruiter for your organization, and you share that you need to learn people's strengths, is that prior to them coming into the organization, or is that so you can recruit internally? Or maybe it's a mix of both. I don't want to, jump that.
I think it's both.
Okay.
So, I'm to the point now where I'm starting to keep like little bios on people, and I don't do it just when I interview them. Like I probably should. I didn't really start it that way. What I've started is doing that on people internally because I'm getting a little more time to view them, like in proximity to what we're doing, right? And so as I'm seeing them do certain things well or not well, like I have a little bio on them on strengths, weaknesses, all the people that report like directly to me, like we just did, like personal visions, right? And so that goes into this bio, for them. So there's strengths, weaknesses. I don't even know that I don't think I have it written out as weaknesses, but that's what I'm really looking for is like, hey, specifically with a lot of our, like any of our organic companies, like you have to be more of like a Swiss Army knife, right? But what do you learn about like you're learning about people's weaknesses too? And I might not be able in those scenarios to pull them out of those weaknesses this second, but I want to have kind of a list, right? Because what am I doing? I'm potentially building a job description for future role within the company, or as we're evaluating technology, like what, hey, can we tackle any of these weaknesses and get this off their plate? Because I might not be able to do that second. A lot of times I can't. But I want to be building data. I want to be aware of like, hey, as we're progressing, as we're growing, as we're hiring, like what is actually going to help the most? And specifically with some of our newer people, because things can come up so quick. And kind of like when you play sports and you elevate, like the speeds faster and it takes a minute, like
to catch up to it,
slow down. Yeah. So as they're growing and they haven't experienced that before, they're going at a faster speed. They're more likely to make some mistakes. And I'm not as like, I have other things going on too, right? So I could, if I just say, yeah, I trust you, not that I don't trust them, right? But like sometimes that's not giving them really good guidance in the scenario because of what I just said. I know that they're going to be going through this experience. Well, I can't know everything they're doing. I can't remember everything, but I can start to document like my experiences and my viewpoints of what I'm seeing. And then as these things come up, I can reference back to that and say like, hey, do you actually need X, or, you got Y and Z here that I know you're doing, and you're getting a lot of feedback or conversations or people that like they're wanting this faster or like whatever it is. And like, do you actually like doing this? Like, what if we were able to get these things off your plate? Right. Like I'm going to give you an example right now that we're tinkering with. It would be with the technology on, you're going to laugh. So adjusting PowerPoints, like formatting and stuff like that. So like we're working on a seat where we think we can kind of make those adjustments in seconds. How many meetings do you think you've been in on adjustments to formatting and stuff? Hours, right? Yeah. With who?
Tons of different people.
But like who in the organizations? A lot. Some of the people that are
top people that shouldn't be doing that.
There you go.
Yeah. So they're better salespeople than
So like we're testing something out. This isn't really recruiting, but it is. So so I'm at our friend's house on Good Friday after we all served like at our church, and we just got together. And my friend's an executive at a company, happened to be a client, but that's irrelevant to this. And he's telling me about how they're using Copilot. And that I was curious, so I'm just asking more questions. Within 12 hours, like the next morning, I'm emailing Ellie on it. And I know like my understanding of it was pretty low at this point. I know we're using it for a few things. It's on our new computers. And I see it like, it on update screen. It talks about it sometime. And I'm just like, oh yeah, we're using that. And then we look into it a little bit more and we find out there's like a beefed up version that you have to get licensed for.
Okay.
So just this week, I approved a couple licenses of that. And then we have an intern starting Monday.
Yep.
And between a couple people on our team and that intern, we're going to let them tinker, with some of this stuff. But one of the things that we talked about wasn't the only thing, was just being able to like format PowerPoints quickly.
Yeah.
And I had just been in 2 meetings. No, I was in one and I didn't join the other one, but 2 of our top paid people were in that meeting reformatting a PowerPoint.
Yeah. Digs
in a little bit more because we actually didn't win this proposal at this point. We didn't win it, where last night we actually talked about, I always like to say not now, not no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no if you miss a timed proposal, but like we're seeing if we have a potential follow-up solution. Yeah. Point is, we put some time into this, right? Mm-hmm. And we didn't win it. And it's top compensated people. And it's just like, it was good. It's good in the fact that we want it to look presentable and right and all this stuff, right? But if I can spit a couple commands in this technology and it does it in 30 seconds compared to us spending 3 hours with our top compensated people, and we can just go service the clients more, like that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
So I got a little bit like off track, but not really. What I'm saying is like you would have this list, and that's a way to like, that would just be something like, is that your favorite thing to do?
No.
Is that what you think you do best?
No.
Is that you and your unique skill set and strengths?
No.
But is that something we've been asking you to do?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it's appreciated.
Yep.
But like, we're testing this out with the goal of like, hey, when we do this, this isn't recruiting a person. In this instance, it's a potential technology. But if we can get some of these weaknesses or not unique strengths or things that are like, they gobble up some time, and we could put time more towards what's better, for clients and for our people's unique strengths, like get them doing that more, that's going to be a win.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just having a list of that stuff is like, you know how many things we get thrown at us technology wise and all the time. Like, well, we're not going to say yes to everything, but we're looking at stuff. Well, what's the best way to look? Like, well, let me look through like our issues.
Yeah.
So I'm creating little micro issue lists and then opportunity lists. Like, man, the more I can get EJ in front of the customer, in front of the team, speaking in front of the camera, all this, like, okay, now we're swinging in unique strength zone.
Yeah.
Hey, it's great. And, for where we're at, there is like, we're all going to have to do stuff that we don't want to do.
Yep.
But let's be aware of where we're not the most gifted, because it might create an opportunity for someone else that is gifted in that, or could be gifted at that, or could take it to the next gear. Or we might be able to use the technology to kind of offset someone having to do that. And if it's just as good within the 90th percentile and we save all the time, in a lot of instances, we should do it. There's a few things that are high touch customer service that if it's not 100%, I say just keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Because relationships can be built in inefficiencies.
Yeah.
But when it comes to formatting a PowerPoint, as an example, or doing a calculation, like if there's a way to do that just as good or better because you take out the human error, great.
Yeah. In a past episode, Aaron, we've talked about pulling on all of the recruiting levers. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on that. If you're watching today, go back and watch or listen to that past episode. We'll link it below as well. But using all the different recruiting levers to be the number one recruiter is super important. So I'll just rattle off one or two that come top to mind. Maybe you can add a little bit. So one of those is outbound. It's just posting positions, seeing what's out there, trying to recruit that way. What other aspect? Why is that so important, using those recruiting levers?
Well, let's go to outbound. Like what we're talking about, like a form of outbound is you out there in the real world, listening, looking, having conversations, interacting. You want to call it network, whatever you want to. I don't really hate when someone's like, "Oh, I'm a networker." Like, right. Just when I'm having conversations with people, that's a form of outbound. Other forms of outbound is you can have you can have like someone like us, like an outsourced recruiter for you. We eat our own dog food on that. We have one of our teams that runs like a program for us, and they do the internal recruiting, and that is a lever. So we have some of that, but like I'm still interviewing all the candidates that come through. So that I get involved, even though I'm not making every like ground call to people like throughout the day. I'm involved in that process at that stage. And I usually see candidates before, and I might ask questions or guidance or, hey, like shoot this candidate to these 3 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these 3 teams, like I'm still pretty involved on the front end that way, on like kind of like being, I refer to that like the point guard of this, like, hey, let's direct like where this should go.
Yeah.
Although we're working with the people doing it, right? Because they haven't been doing it, like the current people haven't been doing that for us for more than 4 months.
Okay.
So my goal with that, now I don't think we're also going to do this long term. I think we're going to actually create a role internally. So this is good. The internal recruiting is an opportunity for somebody, and I think a whole team, down the road. But right now we're having one of our teams, and they have some other searches too. But one of their clients is us internally, just like you guys do that. But so they're doing that, but I'm pretty involved on the front end still because, well, how do you teach, develop, coach? Well, you gotta guide people through it. You gotta work with them. You gotta work like active hip to hip reps with them on what good looks like, what great looks like, what elite looks like. And so that's kind of what we're doing now, but it's all direct, step out, and then I'm the last like interview in the process if we get there. So that's outbound. That's great. Like, well, okay, if I'm not going to make all the calls because I'm doing other stuff, like, and okay, my other form of outbound is just being out, in real life and looking at that. Well, what's another version of that? What's a scalable version of that? It's where you guys come in,
right?
Producing content, and here I am. I'm not the most. I'm so focused on what we're doing that like I don't do like last couple of weeks. Like we have a lot going on. I have a lot going on. It's not an excuse, but like literally like every night since last Thursday, I've been working until 11:30 at night. It's not about the time. It's about what needs to get done.
Right.
So throw the time out because the person that posts their late night, one time, I've posted a few of those. Do you know that I have probably 10,000? I don't know.
Opportunities to
maybe
do
not that many. I don't want to get made fun of on the internet, but thousands at this point of late nights like that. Yeah. So if I post, 1 out of 1,000, like if you're doing that just to post it, like you're not doing it right. Yeah. Like it's the unseen hours, the unseen reps, the consistency to that's going to get that done, not the one time posting it or doing it for a couple of days. I'm not knocking that. You're like, that's a good start.
Yeah.
But that's got to be, you got to be willing to do that when you got to do that so much. You're going to get none of the credit. You get all the credit on the back end of doing that for years.
Yeah.
Maybe even,
a decade,
longer than that. But okay, what's a way that I can get who I am? Like, I think you got to be yourself. Like here you go. If you're not yourself, this doesn't work. So you got to be yourself.
Right.
And even I don't want to say I've struggled with that. I haven't struggled with that the last couple of years because I'm comfortable being myself. Probably like when I don't know, probably at some point for sure. I wanted to be kind of like a version that was, okay, I'm not going to rock the boat or everyone's going to like me. Well, you're not being yourself. That's not really that doesn't attract. That's not what attracts people. You're going to have people that are unattracted to who you are, and you just got to be okay with that for this to work. And I think if you're going to produce content, like I don't know, I'm not a great. I'm sure there's people that are inauthentic that have much bigger, like, yeah. So I guess but I just think the concept would be, I don't care about if we get like this huge following or whatever. The number one reason that I want to do content is because I want people to learn about me. Not, and that came off wrong. Not about me. We're going to share our experiences. I want them to get to know me.
Yeah.
And I can't get to know everyone in the real world. I don't even care necessarily if I don't want everyone to work for us. I know now what I've learned is that what we offer is not for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not for most people. They have to really want to grow. They have to be career minded, and they have to, like, that has to be a big part of what they want. If someone wants to travel the world and 8 weeks of PTO, even though we offer, great things with that and all this stuff, but if that's what they really want, like, we are probably not the best place. And specifically, like, growing at like a high level, there's roles that more, potentially fits, and we offer a ton of flexibility. Yeah. But that's not why you come work here. Mm-hmm. You work here for the opportunity to build your career.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So if someone's not that passionate about that, then we're probably not the right fit. Mm-hmm. Now, hey, we've had some great people that have done great things in their career, and they've left to do other things, whether it be go, have a family, or they open up a different type of business. I just talked to our second recruiter that I had ever hired. And he stopped working with us in 2016. He worked with us first couple years at Spark, at a company before, and he's been at the same company since he left in 2016, so almost a decade.
Yeah,
and he just got promoted to an executive role there, and we're good friends, still. And that was cool. It was kind of a cool moment, just because, we were his first like professional job, and he's a great guy. Learned a lot here. It was a bummer, when he left, but it was probably, good timing, at least then. Who knows what the future holds, but just super proud of him and excited for him. And it's like, hey, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Some of that, or, someone that wants to work for a couple of years and then they're going to go start a family or do something completely different. Like, those things are okay. But who we're really lined up for is someone that looks at around and sees how people have grown and says, I want growth in my career like that. Mm-hmm. I want to go do that. If they can do it, why can't I do it?
Right.
Why can't I be, the number one, person there? Oh, they do this and this. And, all these people are entrepreneurially involved and working on some other things, right? Like, the people that want that is who we're for. Mm-hmm. So what's the best thing I can do if I don't get to have a personal conversation with you? Well, I'm going to put content out there about what we learned, some of what we've done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, mistakes, things I'm passionate about, helping people grow, like all this kind of stuff. If someone aligns with that, and it's like, man, like I do this, or I'm interested in what they're doing, and I'm not getting that where I'm at, well, generally that's going to help lead to a conversation.
Yeah.
And again, back to like the non-desperation thing, a lot of my contents, like I think a lot of the people we have here, not everyone, but a lot of the people we have here that I've recruited, there's a content aspect to it. It's not the only thing.
Right.
It's like part of it is talking to them, getting to know them, being interested in them, knowing what their vision for their, like, there's all this other stuff. But one of the things that kind of like keeps the conversation going over periods of time is not the conversations in itself. It's that they're seeing you put messages out there and they align with those messages, and they're attracted to that, saying, hey, like, I want to be a part of something like that.
Yeah.
So, and you got to be careful with that too, right? Because I think, I've heard other people with bigger followings than me talk about this. And like, I think we talked about, Andy has said this before, that they've had some challenges, and so have we, but I'm sure theirs would be on a bigger level because they have more people internally than we do. But at times, like, we did a good job with that, but I was kind of like excited that people wanted to join the company. And I'm not saying that this is Andy's case. I'll get back to that. This was us. And so I would kind of like get excited. They were excited. You maybe missed some of the things that you should be looking for. Wasn't necessarily talking someone out of their job or tell them that, like, hey, like, you want this growth, you see this, but you need to understand this will be the hardest thing you've ever done. You're going to be pulled, pushed, tugged, challenged in ways that you've never been before. And when you achieve that, you have the chance to be very successful financially. And that's great. That would be probably a motivator that you need to have. I think what's so cool about it is it's so hard that as you overcome some of those things and you do grow, and as you meet new challenges, like later on, you learn a lot about yourself, and you actually grow as a person a ton, as a human being, maybe as a father, as a mother, as like you grow as a person. And again, I think for me, like the financial aspect of it, I'm not going to like that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But probably what means the most, what's the most valuable is that you learn about yourself and what you can actually accomplish. And that things that you didn't think you could accomplish or you struggle to accomplish because you meet a lot of adversity or rejection, but you figure it out. It's an empowering thing. Yeah. That is what I love the most about what we do and what we offer. But if they don't have that need or want for growth, right? For significance, recognition, financial rewards, they want other things, then we're probably not the best option. If I'm posting all that stuff out there, talking about it from a team aspect, and it's not all about, one person, it's about putting the team first and just all the things that we talk about. There's common themes to what we talk about. Well, if someone's in on that, great. Yeah. And if someone's not in on that, great. I had a guy, sorry, last thing on this. Guy that I follow on LinkedIn, nice guy. Talked to him about working here before. Yeah. I'm very glad for him and for us. We didn't move forward. Okay. And again, I'm not saying that someone like this couldn't be productive within our team, but I don't think that they really fit the culture. So his comment was, make sure you take every one of your PTO days. And look, in theory, I think what he was saying is the work's going to be there and, you never get time back. Yeah. And I agree with that. That's why you were on vacation last week. Yeah. One of our other guys was on vacation last week. Both you guys got a lot going on. Yep. And, I believe I said a similar comment to both of you. Like, hey, look, there is a lot going on. Like, you do got to evaluate that stuff. But if you're going, your kids are only X age right now. Yeah. They're never going to be that age again. Yep. So I suggest you figure out how to do what you got to do. But when you go do that, be present in it because you're never getting it back. So I don't I understand what he's saying, but he's kind of putting it in a negative context. Like the company doesn't care about you, like all this. And look, company's going to do what's best for the company. And I support that too. That's how companies have to make decisions. Yeah. And I'm not saying don't take any of your PTO time, but the people that have excelled the most within our organization, do you think they even do you think they're focused on if they've used every PTO hour or not? No, not at all. It's not the right mindset for here. Right. And so I didn't like it because I don't believe it. Yep. Personally, for me, I can get behind that might be the right way to approach life for someone else that wants different things. And I totally respect it. And I agree with the part that you don't get time back. Yeah. And you need to make time for things outside of work, for people that love you, care about you. And go make memories. And I say that to you guys a lot. Oh yeah. But I also say bust your ass. Right. What I'm going to start saying more again is I think it's a huge mistake prior to having a family to not go all fucking out. I agree. I completely agree. One of the reasons why, and I want to preface this, I told you, I work harder now than I did then. Yep. But I did work very hard. Yeah. And I did sacrifice a lot. I did have a lot of relationships and friends that fizzled out because I put business first. Yep. And whether it's my kids, someone in the organization, I couldn't believe it more that's what I think you should do. Yeah. Because all the stuff that you're going to do instead is going to, for the most part, it's going to be diminishing returns compared to you're building a life for yourself and your future family. Yeah. And it is doable, but a different dynamic, I think more challenging. I think you have an advantage if you take advantage of that pre having a family, pre having a marriage. Yep. it's an opportunity.
It is.
Even if it's one you don't want.
Yep.
You know, there's like, man, I want to get married. I'm never going to get married because I'm always putting this first. And, you know, hey, that could have been true. It all worked out, right? But the fact that I was willing to put the time on that, and I didn't bend on that, even though it's not like, I didn't bend on that and everything went perfect in the moment. No, lost friends, had relationships that didn't work out.
Yep.
Had all kinds of stuff, right? But you look up years after that and it's like, well, I'm glad I made that decision.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you don't have these things, like I don't necessarily want, you're going to miss some things, right? Yep. But like, I don't want you to miss every one of your kids' bike, practices or meets or anything like that. Well, there's huge advantage to the person that doesn't have any of those responsibilities right now.
Yep.
And, you know, hey, the more they can do that, the more they can kind of frame out their schedule for what future life may look like. Yeah. So it's an investment in your future life. So I just believe that. I'll probably talk about it more.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll, you know, there's one more thing that we wanted in there, but I think how we just framed the last 4 or 5 overall topics within this really wraps it up, because how we said it, how we wrote it down as we were planning this is building a long-term record. And building a long-term record is really specific for the results you have and the word that you have.
This is the most important part of like, you want to recruit a great team, an elite team. You have to get good yourself first, and you have to go do some things, and people have to see you do it over periods of time.
Yep.
When do you need the most referral clients or person with a certain skill set, or like I mean, you always want those stuff, but like the early days are when like, man, some of that could like literally change the trajectory of a business.
Yeah.
When do you get less of that? At the beginning. At the beginning. Why? Because everyone's kind of waiting to see. They're waiting to see, do you stick with it?
Yep.
Do they have success?
Yep.
Like now, the flip side of that is then you got people that like cheer, they cheer for you, but they won't trust you with business. Then you got this is a whole different podcast, but an in-between zone where you start doing, you know, better. You might get some of that. Well, you're also going to have people that then were cheering for you that now you're doing better than them, or they think you're, you may be getting cocky or arrogant. Hopefully you have good guides and mentors around you to talk to you about that. You don't listen to Joe Smith over in the corner that you knew from high school 23 years ago. And they're telling you, oh, like, you know, you're a big dog now or whatever. Like, just delete them.
Yeah.
Like whatever. But like, hopefully you have good mentors around you if that's the case. But like, you go through this process of that, and then like you've got some momentum, then you got more people that will give you business and stuff. What you're looking at there is like and you have to watch this, right? Because you can get intoxicated with, now all of a sudden, like I'm the good looking. Now everyone wants to come work with us at Bolt. Yeah. And that's like, because you went through a period where that wasn't the case, right. You could have really needed the client or needed the support of someone like it feels pretty good. And it's easy to make some mistakes on that. Again, hopefully you have good guides and mentors around you to help you kind of process that mentally. But okay, you kind of get through that and you then have some sustained success. Well, then, you know, more and more people start to pay attention to that. And here's the other thing. How are you doing with the people that join you? That now you'll make mistakes and not everyone's going to stay forever, like we say, and all this stuff. But if you start to build a team and you got people that have stayed there, they've grown, like things that you're going in and you're talking to people about, and you can point around, or you don't even have to point around. They can just see it. Yeah. Oozing out of whatever you've created. So it's up on the wall, but it's not just up on the wall. It's everywhere. Yeah. You know, around here, that like, we're going to put people in a position to grow. Well, when they see a track record of success, and then they see a track record of you sticking with, or other people sticking with you, and there, you add the content into that or the conversations where you feel like you got like-minded. Now you have a recipe where people are interested and say, hey, let me come be a part of this.
Yeah.
If you have the vehicle there too, you got to have like what's in it for them.
Yeah.
There's got to be the vehicle's got to be right too.
Yep.
You've seen the evolution of that with us here, and you've only seen what you've seen. There's other things that we're working on, but like you got.
But I also knew the track record when I came in.
Yeah, we build the portfolio, and it's like that's what people are seeing now. Well, there's all this other stuff we're working on, but a lot of it ties back to like how can you make the vehicle good for the people that you want to attract.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that is the most important thing within it, because that's what's going to create an environment where you can have conversations with people that you really want to be talking to.
Right.
So,
yeah,
but it's a building process. That's like earning your stripes on that.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I think as I've seen people enter into our organization that have been recruited, that seals the deal. Or if they're not fully in yet, it's what continues the conversation and fuels the conversation as they're going through different times in their lives. And what I mean by that is, man, I absolutely love what's happening there. Mm-hmm. You guys have the track record. You're doing what you're saying. And instead of when we're talking to them about being a part of one of our portfolio of companies, if they're not at the right spot for that, they continue to engage in the conversation because they want to be a part of that. And those things will align.
Sure.
And that's why
they won't. Because you go through, hey, sorry. This person's been here for you got to watch what you're saying, right? But a lot of times you can share hardships once the hardships have become huge parts of someone's success.
Yeah.
And so because a lot of people can be attracted to that or attracted to everyone, like there's a lot of people here long term or, they've been grown, they're promoted, they have equity, they have this, they have that, like whatever it is. But they don't know about all the stuff that those people have stuck through, how they've been loyal with working through some of those growth loops that we talked about in our early episodes, or mistakes that they've made, that I've made, that we've made together, all the tough stuff, which I'm sure there's things that are not, but almost every adversity, right, I can point back to how that made us better.
Yeah.
How that makes the person better. That's part of them being there for a long time. And so I really like to spend a lot of time on that. Like what's tough about the job? What's tough, appreciated, special about this person that's been here for 11 years and ascended this way? Mm-hmm. Well, it's all these great things, but here's some of the things where we actually learned how to become great in this area. It was messing this up or, going through this really, tough season or, whatever it may be. So, because not everyone is up for that. Mm-hmm. Some people, you can tell them that, you can do all this, you can go over and over, but until they're in there taking the blows, you don't know, or they don't know if they can handle it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's any way completely around that other than to try and be transparent around that with other people, not avoiding how hard it was, but then showing that like, hey, this thing you see, it didn't just happen. And you're like, yeah, they're uniquely gifted, but hey, here's some really tough things that led into this happening.
Yeah.
And that happened over a 3 or 4 year period.
Yep.
So while you're going through this thing for 6 months, a year, 18, like this is part of what's molded this situation. It's not always that long, but there's scenarios like that.
It speaks to the track record of that by all means. Well, Aaron, I think there's a lot to learn in this. I also think there's a continued conversation within this. And I just want to, all of us are very busy, even when we listen to these episodes, that type of thing. I just want to encourage people who are listening, watching to either comment, send us an email, take the time to post about this or repost it, because I think there is more conversation around this where we glean from each other, that we learn.
We're scratching the surface on the topic. So.
And I'd love to learn more from other people. And I know you do as well. So thanks for sharing the wisdom today. Again, for those of you who are watching, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're tuning in via audio, make sure you take a moment, like, share, and subscribe. It would just continue to fuel the energy for us around this so we can continue to spark success right alongside of you. Have an awesome day.